Permanent Coffee Stain presents Sit, Sip, and Listen. And now our feature presentation of Small Pox, The Doorway of Calau, written by Anthony James Owens. Chapter 1. The Doorway. The night Calau opened, the world exhaled, and something exhaled back. Hidden beneath the cold German Alps, buried deeper than classified missile silos, and protected by layers of fake weather stations and falsified UN research grants, the CDC-7 facility rumbled like a thing alive. This wasn't climate science. This was obsession dressed in science's coat, a fracture site, a doorway into the unknown, built not with permission, but with desperation. Dr. Malrik Schulz stood at the heart of it all, alone inside the activation chamber. A reinforced steel dome hummed with quantum instability. At its center, a pale circle flickered on the floor, surrounded by spinning pylons, each vibrating with dark resonance, siphoning energy from coordinates not meant to be mapped. The air was dry, thin, crackling. Above him, his team watched from glass-encased booths. Scientists, engineers, ex-military, all sworn into secrecy, none fully understanding the threshold they were helping him breach. Coordinates stabilized, someone called over the intercom. Dimensional pressure, holding. Schulz didn't respond. He was already pressing his palm to the control panel. A red triangle lit up beneath his hand, flashing once, twice, then glowing solid. The doorway ignited. The temperature plunged 40 degrees in seconds. Frost splintered across the floor. Lights dimmed and flickered. The humming became a deep roar like the belly of a storm. And then it stepped through. Dark purple. Small, but wrong. A slick figure emerged, its shape vaguely human, but stretched, distorted. No eyes, only glowing yellow hollows in a featureless face. Long rabbit-like ears hung low, twitching as if sensing vibrations beyond sound. Its grin curled slowly, unnaturally wide, stretching across a too-smooth face. Barefoot, child-sized. But the way the air warped around it made clear, this was no child. "Is that a child?" someone whispered through the intercom, voice trembling. Schulz took one step forward, awe painted across his face. "No," he whispered, reverent. "It's the future." The creature raised its hand, palm outward. The nearest technician didn't even scream. His body snapped rigid, back arching, mouth open as a radiant stream of golden vapor. His life force poured from his mouth into the creature's palm. His skin sagged, bones popped, his body crumpled like wet paper. He was dead. Before anyone moved, the creature launched again. A blur of motion, leaping onto backs, clawed feet digging into flesh, palms slamming over mouths, sucking the essence out of screaming victims. With each kill, it pulsed brighter, its form sharpened, federal, grown. Screams filled the chamber, security scrambled, alarms wailed, doors slammed shut. One by one they fell, drained dry, hollowed out, twitching in their final spasms as the creature moved with the speed of a nightmare. But Schulz didn't run. He watched, smiling, even as backup systems failed, even as the emergency lights sparked and died. The last frame recorded by the internal cameras burned into history. Small Pox, crouched atop a corpse, yellow eyes pulsing like dying stars, mouth wet with breath that wasn't its own, hands smoldering with fresh energy. And Schulz, kneeling before it. "You came back to me," he whispered. The creature tilted its head, smiled wider, and vanished into the dark. Hours later, only one was found breathing. Lira Renn, barely alive, limbs twitching, skin pale, but her eyes were open and glowing. Chapter 2. Escape velocity. The alpine winds howled like ancient spirits. Cold air sliced across the jagged spines of the Bavarian mountains as the hazmat team's twin rotorcraft descended onto a snow-blasted helipad carved into the frozen rock near CDC-7's upper perimeter. It was early morning. if time even mattered anymore. The sun hadn't dared rise. Not here. Snow blasted sideways, stinging even through reinforced military-grade suits. Everything smelled scorched, metallic, even the wind. Above, reconnaissance drones buzzed in uneasy spirals, scanning the terrain. Their lenses tracked over the scorched geometry burned into the ice-covered stone. Spirals, interlocking loops, and concentric arcs, etched so perfectly they looked printed, not carved, not human. Inside the compound, silence, but not the comforting kind. The kind that pressed, that vibrated like something waiting. Lieutenant Kestner led the entry team. His boots crunched on frozen blood and charred tile. He swept his rifle across a warped corridor where shadows twisted in unnatural directions. Frost coated the ceiling. A nearby wall sizzled with residual energy. "Sector 1 clear," he said into his helmet comm. "No survivors, just impressions." "Define impressions," came the response from Geneva Command. Kestner crouched beside a steel wall panel, blackened, distorted. A full human silhouette was flash-burned into it, arms raised, mouth open mid-scream. "Like someone screamed so hard," he said. "They evaporated." The squad advanced deeper. They found them. Bodies, but not normal ones. Not bloodied. Not broken. Empty. Desiccated like old fruit. Skin shriveled over bones. Some frozen mid-crawl. Others curled in fetal positions in corners. Every single corpse shared one impossible signature. A blackened handprint, either across the chest or sealed over the mouth. "Jesus," someone muttered. Then came the sound, a faint gasp. They turned. Buried near the collapsed sub-level 3 stairwell, surrounded by ash and twisted rebar, was a figure. Still breathing, still alive. Technician Lira Renn, unconscious, curled tight. Her skin pale as snow, lips blue, fingers twitching in slow rhythm. Her vitals read perfect, as if she'd just woken from a nap, and yet her skin radiated unnatural cold. Her eyes opened briefly, flashing gold before returning to brown. Machines near her flickered. One drone dropped from the air. They wrapped her in a thermal cocoon, injected stabilizers, ran diagnostics, virology, radiation. Every test came back negative. And yet, the comms glitched around her. Radios spat static. One soldier suffered a seizure when his glove brushed her wrist. Drones jittered mid-flight. She was emitting something. An order came immediately from Geneva. Evacuation, quarantine, relocate to Vault Site 9 in the Austrian Alps. The team obeyed without question. But what they didn't know, what no one did, was what still lingered inside CDC-7. In the dark, where the lights had failed, where heat never returned, Small Pox moved, not walking, floating, a foot above the ground, palms crackling, its long ears trailing behind like a shadow. It drifted past the empty husks, the ghosts it had made, its yellow eyes half closed, like a child lost in a dream. It reached the observation chamber. Behind the reinforced glass stood Dr. Malrik Schulz, unarmed, unblinking. "I did this for you," he whispered. The creature tilted its head. A slow smile spread across its face. Schulz opened the airlock. Small Pox stepped through the vapor, and instead of draining him, it placed a hand on his shoulder. He exhaled, as if being forgiven, and in a flash of purple light, they vanished. The room emptied. The breach deepened, and what came next would not be contained. Chapter 3. Breathless. The sky over Geneva was too calm. A slate-gray dome pressed overhead, deceptively peaceful as snow, collected on the spires and roofs of the World Health Organization headquarters. But underground, beneath 10 meters of concrete and steel, the storm had already arrived. Inside the WHO's subterranean command center, panic had a new name. Small Pox, not a virus, not a bacterium, not a contagion, a predator. Dr. Ilse Brandt, chief of biocrisis operations, gripped the steel railing overlooking the main briefing floor. Her knuckles had gone white. Below her, dozens of analysts shouted across data stations, satellite feeds spasmed with interference, and biometric readouts blinked red and black, unreadable, as if the systems themselves had caught fear. Since the moment Lira Renn was pulled from the wreckage of CDC-7, something had shifted. Reality had bent. Cases streamed in from every continent. Neurological seizures with no physical cause. People speaking languages they'd never studied. Groups hallucinating the exact same figure during unrelated events. And all of it was accompanied by the same thing. A whisper. On looped radio feeds, on hijacked telecom signals, even in dream journals submitted to regional clinics. The same name. Small Pox? Brant had never seen the creature, but she'd seen its fingerprints, the remains of a soldier who had simply escorted Lira from the compound. No contact, no trauma, just collapse, skin pale, breath stopped, no marks, except one. A faint outline of a hand across his chest, where no one had touched him. And Lira? She hadn't blinked, but she had whispered, "Don't let it breathe on you." Brant had ordered everything, full spectrum scans, airborne particulate sweeps, quantum pulse readings, but Lira showed nothing, no virus, no electromagnetic spike, and yet, her vitals pulsed in sync with something. Her heartbeat mimicked encrypted audio waves being picked up on NATO satellites. Her REM patterns hummed on the same frequency as seismic aftershocks circling the Alps. She sat motionless in her isolation chamber, but her reflection in the observation glass didn't always match. Sometimes the glass twitched, sometimes it blinked. "We shouldn't be studying her," Brant muttered under her breath, eyes locked on the glass. "We should be praying." But science doesn't pray. Science monitors. Science dissects. And so they kept watching, until the moment the lights flickered. Not in Geneva, but in Tokyo, in Lagos, in Toronto. 3 cities, 3 continents, the same second. And in each, witnesses later described the same thing. A child-sized figure, barefoot, dark purple skin, long, low-hanging ears. A grin too wide to be human, and the sensation of weight on their back, as if the creature had landed on them, clung to them, before they blacked out. Some woke up hours later, confused. Others didn't wake up at all. But all of them had the same mark, a palm print, faintly burned across their neck or mouth, as though Small Pox was jumping continents, feeding, learning. Back in Geneva, alarms suddenly screamed through the command center. The lights dimmed, surged, then dimmed again. Brant's eyes snapped toward the containment glass. Lira was no longer sitting. She was standing, still, silent, and staring directly at the surveillance camera. Her eyes, not frightened, not confused, glowing. Chapter 4. Field Test. The convoy moved through the Black Forest like a surgical blade, silent, deliberate, precise. 10 armored trucks advanced in formation, each outfitted with multi-spectrum dampeners and reinforced EM shielding. Above, twin surveillance drones circled in a staggered pattern, feeding live visuals to a hovering low-Earth military satellite. NATO had labeled the mission Operation Null Drop, a surgical retrieval or, failing that, containment by force. Inside the lead command vehicle, Agent Marcus Vale leaned over a neural pulse scanner, watching the flickering chaos on the screen. Dozens, no, hundreds, of pulsing neurological signatures danced across the 3-kilometer grid like fireflies caught in a windstorm. "Is that seismic feedback?" one of the technicians asked, voice strained. Vale narrowed his eyes. "No, that's breathing." He pointed at the readout, but not human. The trees thickened, then abruptly parted, and then they saw it. Kirchstall, a forgotten village tucked into the forest basin. Population, 237. Yesterday. Today, silent. The convoy slowed as the trucks reached the village outskirts. Something felt wrong. There were no signs of panic, no signs of struggle, only stillness. Every villager stood in place, in their yards, doorways, gardens, men, women, children, their gazes locked forward, staring unblinking at the incoming convoy. Not a single movement, not even a sway. "This looks staged," whispered a private. Then one of the villagers, an old man with clouded eyes, raised his hand, palm outward, slow, deliberate. Vale's eyes widened. He slammed the override. "All units, mask up, fall back. That's not a greeting, it's a drain mark." Too late. From the trees above, it dropped like a meteor. Small Pox, dark purple and black, rippling with stolen vitality. It struck the lead truck in a blur, denting the armored roof as two soldiers screamed and convulsed. The creature's palms lit up, and just like that, they were gone. Golden life force streamed from their mouths, eyes, and chests into its hands. Their bodies went slack, skin gray, hollow. Then the hum began. A low, guttural frequency. It vibrated the teeth in every jaw. It cracked windshields and shattered drone lenses in midair. "Engage!" Vale roared. Gunfire erupted, but Small Pox moved like an echo, blurring, dodging, vanishing, reappearing behind soldiers. It grabbed one by the face. His scream turned to silence in half a heartbeat. Another tried to run but collapsed mid-stride, his soul stripped before his feet hit the ground. And worse, it was adapting. With each victim, its motions grew smoother, more calculated. Then it did the unthinkable, picked up a discarded assault rifle and fired 2 shots. One struck a soldier in the knee, the other hit a fuel tank. It laughed, mocking, high-pitched, childlike. In the shadows of the tree line, Dr. Malrik Schulz watched. No longer dressed in his lab coat, he wore a tactical black suit with a pulse inhibitor cuffed around his bicep. A glowing tablet hovered in his hand, mapping Small Pox's energy fluctuations in real time. "It's not just viral," he murmured, transfixed. "It's evolutionary. A perfect organism, reborn." Back in the chaos, Vale reached for the squad's contingency measure, an embedded synthetic decoy rigged with an internal detonation charge. He activated it. A white flash tore through the air, fire, smoke, dust, silence. Then, movement. When the haze cleared, Small Pox stood untouched, covered in soot, head tilted, grinning wider than before. It raised one hand and pointed, directly at Vale. "Your turn." Vale pulled the trigger. The bullet froze midair, caught by the creature's open palm. The bullet disintegrated. Then it spoke. "You breathe too loud," it said with a whisper made of ash, and lunged. Fade to black. Chapter 5. Signal Lock. The skyline of Geneva cracked, not from thunder, but static. Invisible waves rippled through the clouds like phantom tremors. Weather satellites stuttered and twitched. Telemetry from orbit began to arrive corrupted, refracted through something no algorithm could decode. Planes rerouted mid-flight. Power grids hiccuped without explanation. But this wasn't mechanical. It was Small Pox. Each life it drained, each soul it hollowed, expanded its reach. It wasn't just feeding now, it was broadcasting. The world was tuning in, and it didn't even know. Deep beneath the surface of the Swiss Alps, in the WHO's Alpine Emergency Command Chamber, Lira Renn sat shackled in a room colder than physics should allow. Triple reinforced cuffs pinned her arms and legs to a shock-dampened chair bolted into titanium flooring. Her vitals, inexplicably, remained stable. Human. But the space around her pulsed. It wasn't just unease, it was a presence. Like the air itself had learned how to breathe. Her eyes, dim gold, blinked in perfect rhythm with the flickering overhead lights. Behind a wall of black-tempered glass, Dr. Ilse Brandt stood with a neural recorder pressed to her lips, whispering notes as if afraid to speak too loud. "She's not transmitting," Brandt said softly. "She is the transmission." Outside the chamber, chaos bloomed across the continent. A 6-year-old boy in Athens fell into seizure, then sat up calmly and spoke fluent German with Lira's cadence. A woman in Oslo painted spirals across her apartment wall, identical to the scorch marks found on the floors of CDC 7. In Prague, a subway performer began humming a forgotten tune, an extinct folk song believed lost to history. Yet the lyrics matched a lullaby overheard on a dying technician's body cam before he collapsed. The signs weren't random, they were synchronized. Lira's heartbeat began to sync with seismograph readings from Italy. Her brainwaves mirrored waveforms from the North Sea. Her pulse was no longer hers, it was everyone's. Brant slammed her fist on the emergency console. Initiate blackout protocols. Wipe every social node. I don't care what excuse we give. Cut the signal. Across Europe, digital silence fell. Social media networks plunged into automated downtime. Streaming platforms went black. Major news stations reported a sweeping global cyber attack. But it was a lie. There was no containment. Small Pox had evolved. It no longer needed to touch. It only needed to be seen. Then, every monitor in the command center flickered at once. Not just screens, retinal scanners, wall consoles, smartwatches, even reflective surfaces began to hum. They all turned purple. Noise cascaded into signal, and from the pixel storm, 2 yellow eyes emerged, burning bright. Brant's voice cracked through the intercom. Full magnetic lockdown, EMP countermeasures, shut down all exposed nodes, don't let it breach the frequency net. But it was already inside. Lira's body arched backward in the chair, her mouth opened. She didn't speak, but everyone heard it. A voice, inside their minds. Let me in. Not asked, not begged, promised. And in that moment, across 61 countries, 340 people collapsed in unison. Their eyes turned glassy, their veins shimmered violet. Each raised their right hand, palm outward. At the Alpine facility, frost crept along the walls in swirling patterns. Technicians shouted, then stopped. On the far wall, in crystallized ice, a symbol appeared. A spiral, a smile. A door. Chapter 6. The Schulz Betrayal. The snowstorm outside the UN fallback compound in Bavaria howled like a wounded beast. Wind tore through the mountains, flinging ice against steel-reinforced walls. Inside, in the belly of the fortified medical bay, Lira Renn sat cross-legged on the floor. Her skin shimmered, faintly gold, pulsing with residual energy. Sweat glistened on her brow, but her breaths were shallow, tight, as if something unseen weighed on her chest. Monitors around her sputtered with distorted data. No clear vitals, no predictable waves. Her heartbeat had become an anomaly, a signal locked in orbit with something not of this world. Her eyes were closed, but her thoughts roared through the reinforced walls like fire. Across the facility, a private door slid open with a hiss. Boots crunched steel. Dr. Malrik Schulz entered, flanked by 2 silent guards. He looked changed, his skin pale, his eyes sunken, rimmed in red. The tremble in his hand betrayed something deeper than fear, something like devotion curdled into madness. He had the posture of a prophet who had just been abandoned by his God. "She's still alive?" he muttered, barely audible. Dr. Ilse Brandt, waiting by the medbay entrance, didn't flinch. She fought it. Whatever it is you dragged through the dark, she resisted. She broke connection. Schulz approached the reinforced glass, staring through it like a man inspecting a relic. "No one resists smallpox." Brandt's voice snapped like a whip. "You created it. You opened that doorway. You let it into our world." But Schultz's lips curled into something strange, something close to reverence. "No, I didn't let it in." His voice dropped to a whisper. "I called it home." Then, boom. The base lurched, lights dimmed. A tremor rippled through the floors. Emergency sirens ignited in a warbling screech. Red lights bathed the halls. Something had landed. Outside, Surveillance cameras caught the shape as it fell, a streak of darkness and violet smoke. It crashed into the frozen courtyard like a god descending. When the steam cleared, Small Pox stood upright, taller now, broader. Its body pulsed with alien strength. Purple-black skin shimmered beneath the cold. Molten light bled from its palms. Its long ears danced with the storm wind. Its grin had widened, stretching toward something inhuman. It began walking, slowly, deliberately, toward the compound's front gate. Guards raised weapons. They never fired. In a flash of violet light, Small Pox extended its hands. The air cracked. Life tore itself free. The soldiers dropped in unison, eyes blank, souls stolen, drained mid-command. "Lock down," Brant screamed. "Seal every entrance, now." In her chamber, Lira jolted upright. She felt it. A hum deep in her ribs, not sound, recognition. The signal was back. Outside, Schultz's smile widened as he stared into the monitors. "It found me," he breathed. "I told you it would come. I always knew." Then Small Pox stopped. Its head turned slightly, as if sensing something. Office. It stared. Not at the building. Not at the chamber. At Schultz. The grin fell. "No," Schultz stammered. "We had a pact. I brought you here. I gave you—" But it was already moving. With a roar like torn metal, Small Pox blasted through the compound's front barrier. Steel warped, concrete fractured, walls crumbled. Brant ducked just in time as the ceiling collapsed. Sirens wailed behind her. Screams faded under thunderous footsteps. And Schultz was alone. He backed against the wall. "Please," he whispered, trembling. "I gave you this world." Small Pox approached, expressionless, cold. It raised both glowing palms and pressed them to Schultz's chest. The scream never finished. Energy surged. Flesh collapsed inward. He was unmade, dissolved into light, consumed entirely. Only dust remained. Small Pox turned toward the final door, toward Lira, and she stood. No more confusion. No more running. This time, she faced it. Chapter 7. Final Breach. Lira landed hard on the rooftop of the UN Biohaz Ops Tower in Geneva. Her boots struck concrete with a thunderous crack, knees bending but absorbing the shock like coiled springs. Her body was different now, stronger, honed by every close call, every narrow escape. She moved like a storm given form. Above, the wind howled like a warning. Helicopters circled, engines roaring, blades chopping the sky into anxious beats. Spotlights darted across the rooftop, cutting through the shadows like surgical scalpels. Below, global leaders and Black Ops teams watched the feed in stunned silence. No one dared intervene. Across the helipad stood Small Pox. Changed again. It towered over her now, broad, hulking, its form crackling with violet lightning. The creature's skin gleamed like living obsidian. Muscles rippled with stolen life force. Its long whip-like tail curled and snapped behind it, twitching with predator hunger. The rabbit-like ears, once limp and harmless, now vibrated with barely contained aggression. Its palms glowed, humming with raw death. Only Lira could face this thing. Only she had survived its touch. "This ends here," she shouted, stepping forward, golden light sparking across her shoulders. The energy around her pulsed with names, with memory, with power borrowed from the fallen. Small Pox didn't reply. It lunged. They collided with the sound of a sonic cannon. Wind burst outward. Concrete splintered beneath their feet. Fists met midair, shockwave. Lira ducked low, spun on her heel, and slammed her elbow into its jaw. Small Pox flew back, flipped midair, landed crouched, then sprang forward with a blur of blows. Each strike was lethal, not to harm, to feed. A glowing palm slashed toward her face. She dodged. The air behind her vaporized a steel support beam. Lira moved like wildfire, fluid, untouchable. Her hands shimmered gold, powered by the echo of those she couldn't save and those still counting on her. Each strike she delivered came with a cry, "Taylor!" Crack. "Serena!" Boom. "Eli!" With a battle cry, she launched an uppercut that hurled Small Pox skyward. But it wasn't over. Mid-flight, the creature twisted, slamming both glowing palms into the roof with a screamless wail. The concrete split. The air bent. A massive rift opened above them, spilling sickly purple light like spilled ink. Ribbons of infection lashed the sky. The sound of 1,000 whispers echoed across Geneva. Lyra's eyes blazed. No more! She shot upward, into the rift, colliding with Small Pox in the swirling dark. Inside, nothing. No air, no up, no down. Only her and it. Small Pox struck first, palms radiant with death. She blocked one, took the other in her ribs, gasped, but planted her feet. And then her hands reached its head. "You want life?" she snarled. "Take mine!" Golden fire exploded from her fingers. She gave it her anger, her strength, her hope, her grief, her purpose. Light surged through the creature. Its scream was silent, but felt. Its grin faltered, ears curled. Its chest rippled as the dark energy collapsed and shattered. They tumbled from the rift like falling stars. Boom! Back on the rooftop. Dust, heat, cracks spiderwebbed beneath them. Small Pox writhed, flickering, unstable, unraveling. "You fed on us," Lira whispered, stepping forward. "But you forgot one thing stronger than fear." She raised her fist, glowing like a sun. "Purpose." And brought it down. Boom! When the dust cleared, the rooftop glowed gold. Ash settled. Small Pox was gone. Not killed. Sealed. Locked inside a crystalline gauntlet on Lyra's arm. A prison of light forged from human will. Below, across Geneva and beyond, the world exhaled for the first time in days. The breach was closed, but Lira Renn stood tall, scanning the skies. If it ever opened again, she would be ready. End. You have been listening to Small Pox, The Doorway of Calau. Stay tuned for more stories, books, ebooks, audiobook releases. Like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.